negative team. For the past 18 years, the United States has held this exact same belief as a negative team, that military commissions are a necessary option. But the past 18 years have shown exactly the opposite. Military commissions have no advantages over federal courts. You'll notice the evidence of the negative team only talks about the problems with federal courts, not the advantages of military commissions. We agree, federal courts are far from perfect, but they're also a far better option than using military commissions, something the negative team has yet to disprove. In fact, that's our entire response to the negative team's entire block. First of all, that federal courts aren't perfect, but that they're better than military commissions, and that the affirmative negative team cannot prove any advantage to military commissions. I'd like to begin by examining the first disadvantage that the negative speaker brought up in the last constructive, that of eliminating a valuable option. And under this, the negative team painted the idea that somehow military commissions try more dangerous terrorists than federal courts. Our first response is 360. Now, this Department of Justice actually reports statistics on those convicted of terrorism-related charges and terrorist charges, and the latest report came from February 10th of 2017. It describes how 360 have been convicted of terrorist charges that are of Category 1 cases, or the most dangerous cases within federal courts. Now, these charges include terrorist acts abroad against United States nationals, the use of weapons of mass destruction, conspiracy to murder overseas, and providing material support to terrorism. And so we can see that high-level dangerous terrorists have been tried in the federal court before. Now, our second response is outdated evidence. The evidence the negative team brought up to back up this disadvantage came from 2010 and no longer provides any accurate statistics on the actual situation. Now, the negative team also argued there are different rules of evidence that actually provide military commissions with an advantage over federal courts. And they broke this down to two advantages. First, in the battlefield, military commissions do not require any search warrants. And secondly, Miranda warnings in federal courts are required but not required in military commissions. Now, our response to this idea is exceptions. Our response to both of these is exceptions. David Glazier, a professor of law at Loyola Law School, actually stated in 2012 that battlefield evidence obtained through federal courts does not require any search warrants or Fourth Amendment rule following, and we have the evidence to back this up. The public safety exception to Miranda warnings also ensures that if a terrorist is a threat to public safety, they are not required to be given their Miranda warnings, and thus, realistically, federal courts do not have any disadvantage in this situation. No disadvantage to federal courts. Now, one of the arguments of the negative team had to do with Ahmed Gilani, and this was something that they stressed often. In 2009, Ahmed Gilani was tried in a federal court. He was then transferred to a military commission before he was transferred back to the federal court to be finally convicted. Now, 200 charges were actually dropped against Ahmed Gilani when he was tried in a federal court. He was then convicted under one charge and received a life sentence. The negative team argues this is an example of injustice. Our first response is, well, life sentence. He did receive due punishment for his crimes. Our second response is same procedures. The Economist notes in 2010 that the same procedures that caused those charges to be dropped in federal courts also apply in military commissions. So this is no disadvantage to federal courts. The same thing would have occurred if it happened in a military commission. The negative team next critiqued the advantages that we provided and argued that federal courts don't work in every single situation, and also the advocates for our plan actually don't support our plan. Our first response is intent versus reality. Intent versus reality. You'll notice the experts that we provided actually support the intent of military commissions, intended to provide justice through efficiency and effectiveness. But they also stated specifically in the 1 and C that whatever their intention and design, military commissions are not working as intended. This is something that all of our experts actually agreed on. So in reality, we do not see any advantage to using military commissions. Now, the negative team also argued both in the rebuttals and in the constructives that there is no harm to U.S. interest. Our first response is inhibits justice. Clearly stated, justice is in the interest of the United States for three different reasons. First of all, because legally, terrorists are considered innocent until proven guilty. And after killing 3,000 people in the 9/11 attacks, terrorists are still considered innocent because military commissions have failed. And secondly, victims of 9/11 still haven't received closure after 3,000 people have died in the worst terrorist attack in the United States because military commissions fail. And third, we can see a precedent of success when we use federal courts to uphold justice. We see a guarantee of using federal courts effectively. Now, the negative team also argued that there's a disadvantage of a danger of a threat. This was simply speculation. They never actually provided anything substantial to back that up. They also argued that federal courts can ensure plea deal cooperation, and the other advantage we brought up already. our response is ensuring and guaranteed through the affirmative team's plan. Ultimately, at the end of the day, what we see is a clear and distinct advantage to the affirmative team's case, while the negative team has not proven anything substantial about military commissions. Thank you so much.